What's a good word, everyone? I'm Kenny Varner, and we are going to be checking out the college football preview. We have 17, 18 games for you, 19 if you're going to go with our Grizz. But hey, we got good news because we're going to be representing Syracuse also. So we're going to start with UNLV. Yes, the team that the Cuse, our Cuse, took down last Friday night, and we got better news for UNLV. What's that news? Before I get that for you, down below, Troy West with 11 other people. They give you the best picks going today. 12 people collaborating. See what it's all about in a little 2-minute video in the link in the description below. So we got UNLV, Utah State. We got 19 and you got 16 and a half. Favored by 19, 16 and a half. So what do we got with UNLV? What I love in this game is an over. But I don't like taking the bad team, Utah State, and really expect anything from them. I just don't want to expect anything from them because UNLV's defense actually looked decent when they played this level of competition, or even a little bit better. When they took on a great offense like the Cuse, they ripped them apart. I don't believe Utah State will be able to rip apart this defense like the Cuse did, even in Utah. Although they did put up 17 when they played, when Utah State played Utah. The great thing about this is we got a 41 and a half minus 130. So that was a great team total that we got earlier in the week because that's just how I broke things down this week. The best thing about UNLV is they can put tons of points on the board. 250 yards a game rushing, of course. And, the last two games, they put up 100 points. This offense is not missing a beat since the QB went onwards. We have heard from the staff itself, just, people that we know, talking to a staff member, their goal is to put up 50 points. They said that before the Syracuse game. We're going to put up 50 points every game. That's what we want to do. And when you got this level of Utah State, such a poor defense, letting up 5.5 yards a carry. That's awesome because UNLV, 5.5, UNLV 70% of the time, 75% before the Syracuse game, they're running the ball. So this leads to you don't need to be chucking it all over the place, which is great for the second half. If this game does turn into a blowout, then running the ball, they'll still accidentally score because they're doing what they want to do anyway by running the ball. And then if the defense comes down, UNLV is going to score at will anyway. So I think the best thing is a team total over. Don't let the bad team, don't expect anything from Utah State. Get it all from Vegas. And we got that at 41 and a half. So that was really good. So as we turn to Utah and Arizona State, Utah favored by 6, total 46 and a half. Doesn't even matter that the last time I looked that Cam Rising was playing. Doesn't even matter because you could just turn on the game and then all of a sudden, oh, wait, no, just kidding. The truth in this game is Utah's looking to bounce back. And with Willingham that I've been a great supporter of him. He's one of the best coaches in college football. So as we look at this one, what do we have? What's the consistent part? The consistent part is Utah's defense. Utah defense has always been showing up. The last few years, Utah has been dominating this Arizona State team. Now, this Arizona State team, they beat Mississippi State 30-23. And you can say all you want about that, how they had them down and then just kind of fell asleep. But the bottom line is this awful Mississippi State team came up and challenged them at the end. Texas State, great win on the road for this level of a team. This is Arizona State's 6th game in 6 weeks. And you're going to start hearing that more and more with some of these breakdowns coming up. How I don't like when it goes to 6, even 7 in a game that we do later. So I don't like that spot in terms of Arizona State. I like the spot of Utah bouncing back for sure. And then you just got an Arizona State team who just got by Kansas 35-31. And they're not playing the best of the best. I could only edge towards Utah. Whether we would actually make a play on that game, Troy, when you get your package from Troy West, they'll tell you whether they have a great play. So I would lean ever so slightly to Utah, but that's not going to make my card. Now we check out Saturday. I really didn't want to break down Northwestern Maryland. That's why I don't have that here. So we got Clemson, Wake Forest. Clemson, 20.5 over Wake Forest with a total of 61.5. This is a Clemson. This is a Wake Forest team who let up 30 to NC State after knocking out their quarterback. They still let up 30. Now CJ Bailey's decent. He's played, but still, that is not a good look. 41 to Louisiana, 40 to Mississippi, 31 to UVA. So every time they played a FBS foe, boom, they have let up 30 or more points. Terrible Wake Forest defense. Now, on the other end, you got Clemson, who's been crushing these terrible defenses. 66 against App State, 59 against NC State, 40 against Stanford, and then they sleepwalk through Florida State, settle for field goals to get to their 29. The thing I don't like about this is all the garbage time points. Look at NC State when they played Clemson, 59-35. They let up 20 to App State. Stanford got 14, turned the ball over. So instead of the 20.5, I think it would be better to look at a Clemson team total over. They have crushed these bad teams, and it's like, oh, they're just bad teams. Weak schedule. Wake Forest is bad and gosh darn awful on defense. So instead of giving 20.5, because you might just, get the we're bored type thing going on, and there have been a history of garbage points being put against Clemson, I would go with Clemson team total. I don't think you can even count on Wake Forest scoring a lot, but I think you can get plenty of points from Clemson to rip apart this Wake Forest team. The next one might be my favorite type play. Tennessee is favored by 14 over Florida. And now that Florida's won 2 in a row, it's like, yay. They went to Mississippi State and won. You could check a couple videos ago. I go Florida over Mississippi State if I had to take a game. And people are saying, how can you lay 6 on the road? Because Mississippi State's that bad. And now I'm using that again. Florida dominated Mississippi State on the road. Come home, and they beat Central Florida. They stopped the run from the number one at the time rushing team in Central Florida, who was coming off that dominating loss to Colorado in the bounce house. So those are one really bad team, the worst team in the SEC, the other an overrated team that isn't very good that they have been able to take out. Tennessee now, what did they do? They ran into defenses the last 2 weeks. Actually, Arkansas is not even a great defense. Tennessee never had the ball, especially in the first half. Arkansas should have been well ahead in that game in the first half, but couldn't do it. And in the Oklahoma game, the second half of the Oklahoma game, they were just their defense was doing so well against an Oklahoma team that couldn't move the ball that they just let them win it, and the offense was petering again. So that was 2 road games where Tennessee didn't show up well offensively. Now, this is a coach that 70% of the time against the spread in the first half has been a winner. I love that this is at a 7.5, an 8. Looking at Tennessee in the first half against Florida. Yes, it's a rival game. It's back in Knoxville where they've been crushing people. So be it, not the toughest schedule going in the world. But this isn't a great Florida team either. This is a Florida team that's bounced back a little bit, playing lesser competition. Trust me, look at their November schedule someday and see if that's not the worst of all time. Although, when I said that in the preview videos, when we previewed every team in the country, that was on a version that Florida State was actually good. So I guess the November schedule just got easier because they played Florida State. But Tennessee to be up by double digits at the half, and it's only 7.5, 8 anyway, maybe down to 7 by the time you check out the video. I I look for Tennessee to be up big at the half. This is what Heupel does. He jumps on people early and stomps them out. I kind of like him for the full game, but I believe that only being up by 10 at the half, that would surprise me. And still, if Tennessee's only up 10 at the half, that would surprise me and would still give us the money. So now we look at my Q's. As you guys know, I'm from upstate. I'm originally from upstate New York before I moved to Montana, now Missouri. But so Syracuse is always on my radar. And sometimes people just say spot. And that's what I think people are doing here. The spread was Syracuse by 4.5 over the dumpster fire known as NC State. Now, of course, this is a square look. That's what people say. This is a square look looking at Syracuse. And now it's down to 3. You got to have reasons why you think NC State's going to win. At night, Riley, C.J. Bailey at quarterback, and he's fine. I mean, it's a step down from McCall, but and even if McCall plays, I would love it even better because you might be able to get under 3. You got an NC State team that's 0-6 against the spread. And you're trying to pick the time that they're going to come away from that streak. I think you got to find a reason. Now, here is what I want to say with McCord. He's thrown for 355, 385, 339, 381, 354. The reason I read off each one is to show you that he really does average 350 yards a game. He didn't have a 500 and a 200. No, his worst was 399. I think that was actually in the Stanford game when I bet him to go over 297. 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. His interceptions have been coming in the second half. And it would have taken a really good athletic play, but UNLV had a chance to clinch the game against the all-powerful Q's if he could have made an athletic play on an interception, but he couldn't. Syracuse hasn't lost a fumble this year. That could actually be a negative into taking Syracuse. I think it's going to take 2 or 3 turnovers for NC State to actually stay in this game. They've let up over 200 points in ACC action. They have let up more points in the ACC than anybody. And now you're coming in with arguably the best offense in the ACC, and you're going to – for people who really want to take this NC State spot, +3, +4, or if you missed the line completely by 2.5, but you still think NC State's the side, let me caution you, they're not the side. But if you really think they are, 53.5 is really low. They're not going to win a 2017 game. If NC State is to pull this upset, they're going to have to score points. I like Syracuse just to score 30. That's their team total. But if you really like NC State or like the spot, Syracuse coming off that big emotional Vegas game, which is true, I would go with the over before I would go with NC State. Because then if it is a blowout and you're wrong, you get the over. Because the NC State doesn't quit. And the example of that is the Clemson game when they were getting throttled, but still put up 35 points, even though they were down 52-7, 59-35. So they'll keep playing. And if you're right, they're going to have to score 30-27 at the absolute lowest. So I would just caution people against taking NC State on the point spread. I think Syracuse is going to go in there, get the job done. I know it's Syracuse, and I know what I'm used to seeing with Syracuse, but I think they're going to put up bunches of points, and their defense isn't the best in the world, so NC State could match them for a little while. So, all right, let's go to the people like to call bailout special, but I think there's actual value on this game in Hawaii. Boise State, 20.5 over Hawaii. The total sitting at 58.5. Let's look at Boise State. Now they're playing Hawaii, right? There is an EE. Utah State, they scored 62 against. Portland State, 45. Washington State, 56. Georgia Southern, 56, and that was on the road, 56-45. Against the Ducks, they were nip and tuck. They lost 37-34. And their team total sitting at 41, or at least was when we put in. It's probably even lower now with a total of 58.5. The great thing about Boise is with the running back going for the Heisman, or at least they think he is, he's going to run for 200 yards. Again, like I said with the previous game with UNLV, look at Boise State. They can run the ball. So whatever happens in the first half, whatever, you're trying to get the 42 points with Boise, they're going to continue to run the ball. So when they have their big lead, they don't have to actually throw the ball to get the points. They're just going to accidentally, in my view, get over this type of total. So before we get to Kentucky and Vanderbilt, so I look for points in this game, but I don't know what Hawaii can do. And Hawaii, best offense they played was Sam Houston, and they put 31 on them. Boise, especially since they can run big time, I look for them to run all over Hawaii. So now Kentucky and Vanderbilt's another spot, but before I get to that, remember, Troy West has 12 people with him. Click the link below, check out the 2-minute video, see what they're all about, because they dominate. I followed for a while from afar. They're the real deal. I mean, when you want someone who's going to take care of things and look professional and all that and win and tell you about money management, you know, I've always preached money management on my YouTube channel. They know how it gets done. So Kentucky, last I saw, all right, we looked in before, it was under the 14. Kentucky, 13.5 and a total of 44.5. Now, this is the easiest breakdown of all time because, of course, you took your goalposts, threw them into your river. You shocked the world when you're Vanderbilt. So, of course, Kentucky, even throw in Kentucky's had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. You throw in a Kentucky team that the last time these two played on this field, Vanderbilt won. So you got no sneaking up on. You got Kentucky from 2 weeks ago, fat and sassy on a 2017 win over Ole Miss, a great win. Of course, they took Georgia to the buzzer. So everything points Kentucky. Everything. You know, Vanderbilt, let down. Kentucky, 2 weeks to prepare. No sneaking up on them. That makes it so I can't take Vandy. This line was just, it was almost auto-played from 11.5 to 14. 14 is where the resistance came from. And then now it's sitting at 13.5. But, you know, let's play devil's advocate. Look at Vandy. They controlled the game against Virginia Tech, 34-27. We all saw Virginia Tech come within inches of beating Miami. And, yes, that was an incomplete pass, but came within inches of beating Miami in a great game. Vandy controlled those guys, 34-27. This team played Missouri on the road, 30-27 in double overtime. Took Missouri to the wire. Also, when these guys went on the road to Georgia State, they lost 36-32. And that's what everyone's going to point to. Oh, they're no good. They're no good. The truth is, Pavia is good. He pulled a 21-point upset when he was at New Mexico State, and he pulled one off here, and this was just a miracle. The weird thing is when I looked at the stats and saw that Vandy I thought they ran for more yards because I didn't watch the game from beginning to end. But when I watched the end, and they run for 166 yards. But they absolutely ran through Alabama. Just ran right through them. When they knew that Vandy was going to run and wasn't going to put the ball up in the air. So that was impressive. Truth be told, though, this is the best defense in the SEC with Kentucky. Yeah, I know. It's weird saying, got Georgia, got Alabama. But the truth is, they let up 20. They let up 17 to Mississippi. Now, Mississippi, who can score on anybody, Goes down and scores in the first 5 minutes and scores 10 the rest of the game. Dogs, 12. Team that scored 100 on Alabama could only muster 12. The proof is there that Kentucky can play defense. This is not an offense that I'm going to lay points with, though. Lay 13, 14 points with. I do not like these guys in the favorites role. I do like them in more of an underdog role. I'm way off this game. Going to not take it. But, and all the spots, anyone who's a spots player doesn't even look at this game. They just go, Kentucky, boom. And you should have done it on Sunday, Monday, when it's 11.5, 12. If you're a spot, and that's what you do 99% of the time, this one would have been easy to see coming before it goes 13.5, 14. And now if you take Kentucky, you're taking a bad number. So they win by 12. They win 22-10. You got them by 13.5. That's just not betting well because you're getting a bad number when you could have had a better number. But you are getting a good number with Vandy. So, and Troy West knows all about that. I implore you to check the link below and see. They have a week, month, and year-long packages. Their customer service is second to none. All right, so this one is super interesting. Wait, okay, did get all that. All right, Pitt -3 over Cal. My book, Bet Online, put them to 2.5 -105, where other books are at 3. So, Pittsburgh undefeated against Cal. Talk about an emotional choke job loss, however you want to put it. The bottom line is California had game day. They had Miami on the ropes, 35-10. Got a little conservative, but when you look overall, let's look at Pitt first. Eli Holstein, 65.7% completions, 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 340 yards a game passing, 180 rushing. Awesome. You got this emotional California team who plays to their defense. Now you say Auburn, take away that Auburn can't get out of their own way. The bottom line is Cal went to Auburn and won. Was it impressive? Look at the box score and see if it was impressive. I don't care about the yards. The game ended 14-7 Cal. Cal had 0 turnovers. Auburn had 5. And a very average Auburn team that could only beat by 7 with having a +5 in the turnovers. That was my first red flag against Cal and kind of a reason where I stayed off of Cal against Miami. I was just like, no, red flag all over the place. Now, what's going on? Now, many people might not think of this, but September 7th, they flew out to Auburn, flew back to California. September 21st, they flew out to play Florida State, which, again, they could only muster 9 points and lost. Florida State's only win is against this Cal team, 14-9. But that's beside the point right now. What they do on after the 21st when they played Florida State, they flew back to Cal. Played the Miami game, emotional. Third time in 5 weeks, they're going across the country. And now they're only getting 2 to 3 points against an undefeated Pitt team that can score the way they can score. I don't think Cal can take advantage of the average defense of Pitt. Especially, I think the motion is going to be way down. They're going to have a big letdown. Plus, it's their third time going across the country in 5 weeks. This is a spot I could only take Pitt. All right. So now we're looking at Oklahoma, Texas. They both had 2 weeks to prepare. Texas favored by 14. Outside of Michigan, Texas had the easy schedule, so it's made them, giving us a perception that they're the best team in the country. And I might not even disagree till after next week. After Texas plays Georgia in Texas next week. I like Michael Hawkins having now 2 weeks to prepare, get the whole game plan under him. He's the guy now at quarterback. Will it make a difference? If it is going to make a difference, it's going to start here. I'm not so convinced it will. But this is a team that stopped Tennessee the whole second half. Texas, you know, I want to say different animal, but they have a great offense, just like Tennessee had a great offense. So could that defense keep them in the game? It could for a while. But this has the trappings of a game that's they could stay within 7, 10 points for a while, but they ultimately get worn down. And this total sitting at 48.5. I know. All these games are shootouts. I'm not so sure in this particular game. This is one, it's like, I know everyone has to bet on it because it's Oklahoma, Texas. You have to bet on the next game because it's Oregon, Ohio State. I know Troy West agrees that you don't have to bet just because it's a big game. Not that he'll stay away, just that you don't have to. It's about money management and making money. So click the link below. Watch that 2-minute video. You'll be very impressed and see how you can get involved. And the prices are just unbelievable. That's all I can say. They're just unbelievable because you can test for a week and go see. The smart people know it's about the long term, so you get a bigger package. You're ready to rock and roll for the whole year, and it's about winning money, not just watching the exciting game. But we do have an exciting game next with Ohio State favored by 3 over Oregon. Now, what do we have here? We got Ohio State, who played Akron, Western Michigan, Iowa, Marshall, Michigan State, not the elites of offense. But they've done what they were supposed to do. You got Will Howard at quarterback. Kansas State people have been telling me time and time again, just wait for the big game. Just wait for the big game. Well, here's a big game on the road. You're only favored by 3 with a total of 54. I'm waiting for the big game. Let's see what happens. If you could trust one of these defenses, which one could you trust? I would have to lean Ohio State because I haven't seen anyone go off on them. I have seen Boise State far superior to any offense that Ohio State's faced. But still, Boise State up and down the field against Oregon in that 37-34 survival for the Ducks. And again, you got Idaho 24-14. I think that's what people are going off of. The Idaho game where it was 24-14, Boise State where they survived. The truth is they rocked Oregon State, UCLA, Michigan State. Maybe not covering the point spreads. In the box score, they rolled them. So those point spread things, that's what makes Ohio State instead of a pick 'em. That's why you're getting a little bit of value maybe with Oregon +3. Dylan Gabriel, the only guy to beat Texas last year. He was able to he's known to be clutch. He's a solid quarterback. He is healthy. So, yes. The one thing Oregon hasn't done, which has made these scores a little closer than they should be, is being able to finish off drives. And that could be a big deal against a team like Ohio State. My first inkling was like, let's look for points in this game. But when I do that, I go, what does 27-24, 28-24 seem like? So now that type of final score makes me think that the total about spot on, I would say, which they're going to be for these big time games. These are like NFL games in terms of how tight the spread's going to be, how tight the lines are going to be, because, these are as big as NFL games, these big, huge college football games. So the one thing I will give to Ohio State is Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator for Ohio State. And I give a bit of an edge there knowing about Oregon. And going against Oregon. So with it all said and done, maybe Ohio State's the better play. This is a team that's gone 21-2 on the road with only losses to Michigan on the road. So they're not going to be intimidated. But I kind of like Dylan Gabriel. And I keep hearing Kansas State people just whispering in my ear, Will Howard, just wait for the big game. Watch out for Will Howard in the big game. We'll see how it goes. We all know the best Ohio State quarterback is in upstate New York right now. If they had Kyle McCord, boom, take him, be confident. But they don't. They don't have as a good quarterback as Kyle McCord of Syracuse. Will Howard, time to prove yourself. All right, now we got Ole Miss 3.5 at LSU at night with a total of 62. We're calling Mississippi the better defense, allegedly, because of their games against Furman, Middle Tennessee State, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, and South Carolina. Now, the common opponent here with LSU is they struggle with South Carolina 36-33, where Ole Miss slept walk in the second half through these guys 27-3. We don't like going just on one situation, one game of common opponents. You do that, then you really go down a rabbit hole of, hey, you want to go down a rabbit hole? Okay, Georgia State beat Vandy, who beat Alabama, who beat Georgia. Wait, and then Georgia, Alabama, beat Georgia. You can go down a rabbit hole of so Vandy beat Alabama. Well, here we go. I should have wrote this down because Alabama beat Georgia, Vandy beat Alabama, Georgia State beat Vandy, Georgia Tech beat Georgia State, Georgia Tech lost to Syracuse, Georgia Tech beat Georgia State, Syracuse beat Georgia Tech, therefore Syracuse better than Georgia. Okay, finally got it out. So I don't like to go down the common opponent, just one. What I will say is Brian Kelly's 16-1 at home. They were blown out once at home by Tenney. But other than that, they pulled Brian Kelly off a bye week. Good deal. Ole Miss had to play, even though it was just South Carolina. Still, LSU can score the ball. They scored on that South Carolina team, and we'll get to it when we get to the Alabama game. 36 points in 2.5 quarters. So LSU is going to be able to put up some points. I still think it's an allegedly really good defense for Mississippi. It might just be a pretty good defense. It is better than LSU, I will say that. I still give the edge to LSU plus 3.5 at night. I don't think Mississippi is that level, Georgia, Alabama type level, as I call it. They're not there. I think they're more at this level right here. And, should they be a 3.5-point favorite? Well, since LSU struggled with South Carolina, since LSU lost to USC, US 2 losses. So I see why Mississippi is. So I do see the why part of it. I think LSU is going to show up in this game. All right, now let's get to Penn State USC. Now this is a game that Troy West might actually like. Who knows? When you check out the packages, week, month, and year-long packages. But really, check out the 2-minute video. Just seeing that video, and then decide what you want to do. All right, so Penn State 3.5 over USC 50.5. This spread has come down from 5.5. I am already upset with Franklin, head coach for Penn State. He is whining about flying cross country to play USC. Let me remind you what's happened in 3 of the last 5 weeks. Cal went to Auburn, Florida State, and Pitt. They couldn't even stay because they had to come back for a home game. Back for a home game. Now they're out to Pitt for a third time in 5. And this guy's whining about the first time that his team has to leave the Northeast. Ooh, they went to West Virginia on August 31st, have 95 home games roughly, and then have to go out to USC and whine about it. Unbelievable. Anyway, So this is a good defense. This thing is sitting at 50.5, and Lincoln Riley just goes over these totals. I think Miller Moss and company will be able to score some points on this Penn State team. The focus is obviously going to be there. They beat LSU. Yes, they lost to Michigan and Minnesota, so they're in a bounce back situation. I just don't think they're at the Penn State level. And as I look and see 27-24, yeah, I could sneak over this total. This is just a type where I see Franklin choking away, but he is a favorite, and you don't want to really go against him as a favorite. Whether we get involved in that, I'm not sure, but it's a marquee matchup, so you have to put it out there. And the whining Franklin just kind of irritates me, but I still think his team is better than USC. Alabama is now 21.5. So now if you're taking Bama, you're getting a bad number unless you get 21 or lower, because it's been at 20, 20.5, 21. And they're going against South Carolina, coming off a 27-3 loss to Ole Miss. This is a South Carolina team that have 36 to LSU in 2.5 quarters, as we mentioned a couple of games ago. 0 through 7.5 minutes. So here's what you gotta see. Alabama's offense is good to go. Last week, 35 points, 2 punts, 2 turnovers, or they go over their team total of 36.5. So they scored 35, 41, 42, 42, 63, and that includes Georgia with the 41. But is the Alabama defense good to go? The total in this game is 50.5. Do you want to expect anything from South Carolina? Do you want them to have to do something for you? Last week, Mississippi, great defense against them. Was it, or was it Lenore's Sellers' just first game back? And will South Carolina be able to run? These are things we haven't had to ask in the past with Alabama. After seeing the Vandy game, after seeing the Georgia game, 2 games in a row where their defense was shredded, just how good is this defense? So to me, the best way to go is to Alabama offense. You don't have to depend on South Carolina. Maybe Alabama's got some things figured out for South Carolina. If they don't, then they're going to have to keep on scoring and get to 37 rather easily. If not, they still want to put a beat down because they're not happy in front of the home folks. They will love to see this team put up 38, 40 points. So I believe if you like Bama to bounce back and crush them, I think the team total is a little bit better, a little bit safer than winning by 21.5. Could it be 35-10 and you win by 25? Yeah, but name another score. 37, it's over. 35-10, you win. I don't think take it out of Bama's defensive hands and put it all into Alabama's offensive hands. That's how I would look at it if we end up pulling the trigger on this. So that's how I look at that one. Oh, here's a bad one. All right. Georgia Tech -4. This one was up to 6 over North Carolina. I think it went from 3.5 to 6 back to 4. So it's not a bad line if you have Georgia Tech. It is not the best line you could have got if you like North Carolina. To me, I wrote this down, and I say this in very few games, but sometimes I just feel that one team has decide who wins this game. Georgia Tech is going to decide who wins this game. Haynes King can be really good, but sometimes they don't finish off drives. Sometimes they turn the ball over and throw backwards passes into their own end zone so Louisville can recover. So that's what I mean by I think Georgia Tech, with the amount of mistakes they make, will determine who wins this game. And I think they'll be fine, as I saw a North Carolina team against Pitt that plays slow, and with Jacoby in their quarterback, they're not looking to get in track meets, but they automatically do get into track meets because their defense is so bad. Now, do I think 60 is a little bit high? And I think it could be with how much Georgia Tech can run the ball and take more time off the clock. But really, this is just a North Carolina team that's a dumpster fire. They've lost 3 in a row. I think they're ready for a new start. Jacoby Criswell is all right, and this Georgia Tech defense is all right. It's going to be the Georgia Tech mistakes or lack thereof. They could get some separation in this game. I would only look at Georgia Tech. I don't like betting on dumpster fires and saying they're going to turn it around. It reminds me a little bit of Syracuse, NC State this game. All right, so let's go on to BYU in Arizona. Okay, I heard a stat, but I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, there is some validity to this. Exactly. Okay, here it is. BYU at home, 5-14 in the daytime, 28-3 at night. This does cover COVID, so you'd have to look into more about what that's all about. But 28-3 at night. So even if they're 500 in the daytime, is that why this spread is coming down? Undefeated BYU down to 3 points over Arizona. Now, Fafita has 6 picks. Quarterback for Arizona has 6 picks on the season, 7 touchdowns. He can run also. He moves the team, but a lot of times they come away with 3. And too many times in field goal range, they come away with 0. So they are a team that can move the ball, but actually finishing off, I don't know. I watched BYU. I had SMU, who we were high on, as you can check our videos on our YouTube channel. I was high on SMU this year coming in. And I watched the BYU, and we had SMU. Well, I lost with SMU as a bigger favorite over BYU. The thing I came away with that game was BYU absolutely dominated the SMU offensive line and defensive line for that matter. They super dominated. Now, if they played SMU again, do I think SMU would win? I think they'd have a better chance because they made their change to Jennings as quarterback. But that's neither here nor there. Dominating the line of scrimmage was really, really impressive. Way more impressive. That 1 or 2 point win was way more impressive than BYU's 38-9 win over Kansas State. A team that I think is pretty good that we're going to go over their game next. The truth is they got the 3 turnovers, one a punt, and then they had the crazy punt return for a touchdown, and things just got out of hand. It was just one of those games that Kansas State under Kleiman liked to put up. So as much as that's a good win, I don't want to say fluky win, a fluky 29-point win. Made it look worse than it was. They only got 241 yards in that game. Of course, when you get a big lead and you're just protecting and Kansas State can't do anything on offense against you, it can make the field look like that. I mean, you had scored on offense, defense, and special teams. And so, but when I look at this game, Arizona goes on the road, wins, comes back home for Texas Tech, loses. They're all over the place. They were pretty much dominated when they went to Kansas State. I think this is low for BYU. BYU at home, who does have a home field advantage. This 5-14, 28-3 stat, I kind of throw out because they're going to cover the COVID year, and they're going to – I don't know. It's just – it shows me they're really dominate when they play at night at home, and maybe not as much so when they play during the day, whatever that could mean. I think this is a strong home field. I think at a field goal or less that BYU might be a decent little play. To get the official plays, though, of the 12-man wrecking crew under Troy West, check the link below. See what it's all about. It's a 2-minute video to tell you what he's all about. And he's up front. He's honest. And it's awesome. So let's get to Kansas State, 3.5 over Colorado. We're around the campfire areas. People are betting Kansas State, but a lot of people are taking Colorado on the money line. I have to do the public service announcement saying I don't care if you hate or love Colorado. That's not what the breakdown. That's not how you make money. So there you go. The bottom line is Kansas State went on the road twice this year. They escaped barely because of a defensive touchdown over Tulane, a decent team, 34-27. They got rocked by BYU. We just talked about that. They just had one of those climbing clunkers. Now, with climbing coach, now this is the head coach that, led North Dakota State to a bunch of national titles at the FCS level. We want to do that. Is a far superior coach. I mean, that's just duh. We all know that. The offensive line for Colorado is still a problem. They were still leaky against UCF. Shedeur Sanders can make up for that type of stuff in college. Kansas State might be able to actually corral them a few more times. Now, this is a Colorado team that stopped the number one rushing team at the time with UCF. They were. So that's something to hang their head on. They got ripped apart by Baylor. We all know the lucky Colorado, even though they hit not one but two Hail Mary passes. One was just dropped, and then the other, they win and rush the field. Kansas State, 252 yards a game on the ground. I think that's going to be something that could really wear down Colorado as it goes down. The spread gets down to 3 or 2.5. I might have to take Kansas State. The thing that wants me on Colorado in one way is it's just one of these magical, I call it Tebow type things where you just things are kind of falling into place. And once they fell into place against Baylor, it was impressive to see them go to the bounce house and dominate Central Florida. Even if UCF, who then got killed by Florida, even if UCF isn't that good, they had as much confidence as they ever would have in that game. So, I could just see Colorado's claims to fame are UCF and Baylor. I don't know how impressive that is. We know that North Dakota State's not that impressive. And when they played up and played a good team, what I call just a good team in Nebraska, they got hammered in the first half. Now they shut them out in the second half, but I see I would favor Kansas State in this particular game. So now our last game, two Big 12 teams, 2-0. Iowa State -3 against West Virginia. We got an Iowa State team who it is said they have this really good defense. Well, I mean, I guess North Dakota, Arkansas State, Houston, and Baylor would North Dakota, Iowa, Arkansas State, Houston, and Baylor would agree they have a good defense, but none of those teams, even North Dakota, who's ranked 7th in FCS and got blasted by North Dakota State. No, none of these teams have a real offense. West Virginia definitely has an offense. Definitely will test them. Definitely gives you value to pull this over under this total down to 53. I think it's a little bit light in that effect. This is a team that lost to Pitt 38-34, led up 34-12 in their step-up games. I think this could be one of those just down the wire games. I don't think there's an advantage. I think the spread is probably where it should be with Iowa State, undefeated despite their schedule. West Virginia was in a downtrend, got a nice win, then went into Stillwater and absolutely dominated them. Again, they dominated them on the offensive line, which was really, that's really impressive stuff. I don't think they'll be able to dominate Iowa State, but I'm saying Iowa State's defensive numbers might not be as good as advertised. And we might find out this week that they are, but I would trend towards the over in this type of game. So that's what we got for this week. Every week we're going to be here, college football, breaking down games. I think we're going to start doing individual videos. Give Troy West a shot. 12 guys, putting their heads together to dominate college football, the NFL, all sports, see what they're all about. Reach out to them. You can even contact them through an email if need be. But sign up, get a package deal, and see what they're all about. All right, we'll see you guys in the next video, and let's make money.